Marcus Taylor wiped the sweat off his forehead with a dirty rag, his hands stained with oil and grease. It was another long shift at the small private airstrip just outside Atlanta. He'd been under the wing of an old twin-engine plane for hours, trying to stop a stubborn fuel leak that refused to cooperate. He was tired, not just from work but from life. Rent was late again. His truck needed new brakes. And his boss, Mr. Conway, barely noticed how hard he worked. But Marcus kept showing up, every day, because fixing planes was the one thing that made him feel in control. His phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a text from his sister. "You eating tonight?" He smiled softly and typed back, "We'll see. Depends on this leak." Just as he slid the phone away, a loud voice came over the hangar intercom. "Taylor, hold up, don't clock out. We've got an emergency inbound." Marcus sighed. His stomach rumbled, and he had already been planning to grab some fast food on the way home. But overtime meant a few extra bucks, and he needed every one of them. A few minutes later, the sound of a private jet echoed across the runway. Sleek, shiny, and far too expensive for their old hangar. It rolled to a slow stop, and the ground crew rushed over. Something wasn't right. The engine was making a rough, grinding sound as it powered down. Marcus grabbed his tools and jogged over, squinting at the jet's tail number. Then he heard someone whisper behind him, "That's Vanessa Kingsley's jet." He turned around. The Vanessa Kingsley? The tech billionaire? The one always on the cover of business magazines? He peeked at the jet again. Luxury on wheels. And probably worth more than the entire airfield. He could already feel the tension. The other mechanics were hesitating. No one wanted to be responsible for messing up a billionaire's ride. But Marcus didn't have time to be nervous. He just saw a machine that needed fixing. A tall man in a suit rushed over. "Who's the lead mechanic?" No one answered. Marcus stepped forward. "That's me." The man looked him over, a little doubt in his eyes. Marcus was wearing a ripped work shirt, jeans with holes in the knees, and his boots were covered in mud. But his gaze was steady. "We got a takeoff deadline in 3 hours. Engine's acting up. Miss Kingsley can't be late." Marcus nodded. "I'll take a look." As he climbed the steps into the jet's engine bay, he caught a quick glimpse of her, Vanessa, watching quietly from the window seat, sunglasses on, coffee in hand. He had no idea that this job would change his life forever. But for now, it was just him, the engine, and a chance to prove what he could do. Marcus climbed into the tight engine bay, the metal still warm from flight. The hum of tension hung in the air like a storm about to hit. He could hear voices outside, Vanessa's team pacing, whispering, throwing around big words and bigger demands. He ignored all of it. Tools in hand, he leaned in and listened, not just with his ears, but the way his dad had taught him. Machines had a way of talking, if you were patient enough. And something about this engine wasn't sitting right. He flipped open a side panel and spotted it, tiny but serious. A misalignment in the turbine housing. It was the kind of thing easy to miss unless you knew exactly what to look for. Marcus had only ever seen this once before, during a rare training session years ago. He remembered the instructor saying, "You'll probably never see this in real life." But here it was. Outside, the suited man was getting louder. Is he even certified to work on this kind of jet? Marcus kept working. He didn't have time to explain that yes, he was certified, that he'd fixed everything from crop dusters to corporate jets, that he spent his nights reading aviation manuals like they were novels. People didn't always see the hard work. They just saw the grease on his hands. He dug deeper into the engine, searching for a way to repair the damage without the special part he didn't have. The closest replacement would take at least 2 days to arrive. And this woman, Vanessa Kingsley, apparently didn't have 2 hours. He grabbed an old bracket from the supply room, filed it down carefully, and shaped it to fit. Not perfect, but solid. He checked everything twice, then once more. When he was sure it was safe, he stepped down from the engine bay and wiped his hands. "It's ready for a test run." The team stared. The suited guy looked nervous. "Already." Marcus gave a quiet nod. "We can run the engine at low power. If it holds, she's good to go." They powered it up. The jet rumbled, coughed once, and then purred. Smooth. Steady. No shake. No grind. For a moment, no one said anything. Then the suited guy let out a breath like he'd been holding it for hours. From inside the jet, Vanessa stepped out. She was tall, confident, and dressed in something simple but sharp. She looked at Marcus with a mix of surprise and curiosity. "That was fast," she said. Marcus shrugged. Wasn't about speed, just needed the right eyes on it. She smiled, slow and thoughtful. "What's your name?" "Marcus Taylor." She nodded. "Well, Marcus Taylor, you might have just saved my week." He gave her a small smile, then picked up his toolbox. "Just doing my job." He walked away without expecting anything else. But Vanessa watched him the whole time. And for the first time in a long time, Marcus felt like someone actually saw him. Marcus was back in the hangar the next day, working on a broken-down prop plane. He hadn't told anyone what happened with Vanessa's jet. No big deal, he figured. Just another job done, another engine fixed. But word had spread fast. People kept asking him about the billionaire's jet. One guy from the fuel crew even said, "Heard you pulled off a miracle yesterday." Marcus just smiled and kept working. He didn't like attention. He liked tools, engines, and the quiet rhythm of fixing things. Around noon, a black SUV rolled onto the airstrip. Marcus didn't look up at first. Deliveries and high-end visitors weren't rare around here. But then he heard a voice behind him. "Hope you're not too busy for coffee." He turned around, and there she was. Vanessa Kingsley. No suit this time. Just jeans, sneakers, and a white t-shirt under a leather jacket. She held 2 cups of coffee and a small brown bag. "Figured you didn't get a proper thank you," she said, handing him the cup. Marcus stared for a second, then laughed. "You brought me coffee and a breakfast sandwich," she added, holding out the bag. He took them, unsure what to say. No one had ever brought him breakfast at work, especially not someone like her. "You really didn't have to." "I know," she said, smiling. "I wanted to." They sat on a toolbox under the wing of the plane he was fixing. For a while, they just ate and drank quietly. Then she asked him how he knew what was wrong with her jet. Marcus explained, in his usual simple way. No showing off, just the facts. She listened, really listened, nodding now and then, asking smart questions. "You talk about planes like they're people," she said. Marcus smiled. "They kind of are. They got moods. They talk in their own way. If you pay attention, they tell you what they need." Vanessa looked at him like she was seeing something new. "You ever think about starting your own shop?" He chuckled. "Every day. But dreams cost money. I'm still saving for better tools." She didn't say anything for a moment. Just sipped her coffee and watched a plane take off in the distance. "You're better than most guys I've hired for triple the money," she said softly. He looked at her, surprised. "I mean it," she added. "And I've hired a lot of people." Marcus felt his chest tighten a little. Not from nerves, but from something else. Pride. Hope, maybe. When she stood up to leave, she handed him a business card. "Call me sometime. Not just for jets. I like talking to people who get it." Marcus took the card, nodded, and watched her walk back to her SUV. He looked down at the card. Simple. Clean. Just her name and number. He slipped it into his back pocket. For the first time in years, Marcus felt like maybe, just maybe, something was about to change. A week passed, and Marcus still hadn't called. Not because he didn't want to, but because he didn't know what to say. What did a guy like him talk about with someone like her? She was rich, famous, and busy. He was, well, him, fixing engines, eating gas station sandwiches, and trying to make rent on time. He kept her card in his wallet, looked at it a few times during lunch breaks. Always ended up sliding it back in, telling himself, maybe tomorrow. Then one afternoon his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. "Hello." "Hey, Marcus. It's Vanessa." His heart jumped a little. Her voice was calm and clear, like she'd known him for years. "You didn't call, so I figured I'd call you. Hope that's okay." "Yeah, of course," he said quickly, wiping grease off his hand with a towel. "Just been working. Still fixing old planes?" "Always." She laughed softly. "I'm flying back into town tonight. Want to grab a bite?" "Nothing fancy. Just food and real conversation." He paused. "Sure. Where?" "Text me your address. I'll pick you up." Marcus blinked. Pick him up? This woman had drivers and security. Why was she driving herself? But he didn't ask. He just sent the address and cleaned up fast, shaved, put on the only clean shirt he had that didn't smell like fuel, and waited outside his apartment. Just after sunset, a sleek black sedan rolled up. Vanessa was behind the wheel, window down, grinning. Ready. Where are we going? Best burger spot in the city. And no, it's not some hidden rooftop thing. It's a food truck. Marcus smiled and got in. They drove through the city like two old friends, music playing low, windows cracked open. The burger truck was parked in a lot behind a warehouse, with a few picnic tables and string lights hanging from trees. They ordered, sat down, and started talking. Not about work, not about money, just life. She told him about growing up with nothing, about coding in internet cafes because she didn't have a computer at home. He shared how his dad taught him to fix engines when he was 10, and how losing him made everything harder but also gave him purpose. They talked until the food was gone, until the lights buzzed low, until it felt like no one else was around. On the ride back, she asked him something unexpected. If someone believed in you, really believed, what would you do with it? He thought for a moment. I'd build something that lasts. Something that helps people like me. She nodded, like that was exactly what she'd been hoping to hear. When she dropped him off, she didn't ask for anything more. Just a smile, a quiet thanks for coming, and a soft, I'll see you soon. Marcus stood outside for a while after the car pulled away. The city lights flickered. The night felt different, like his story was just starting. 3 weeks had passed since that night at the burger truck. Marcus and Vanessa had been talking almost every day since. Not long phone calls or fancy stuff. Just real, simple conversations, texts, voice notes, the occasional lunch meetup when she was in town. Sometimes she'd swing by the hangar with coffee. Other times she'd send him articles about new aviation tech or small business tips. It was weird in the best way. Marcus didn't feel like he was talking to a billionaire. He felt like he was talking to a friend. Someone who actually saw him, listened, and didn't care that he still wore the same 3 work shirts on rotation. Then one day, while he was under a rusty Cessna wing, his phone buzzed again. You free this weekend? I want to show you something. He replied quickly. Sure, just name a time. Saturday afternoon. She picked him up again. This time she didn't say where they were going. She just drove with that same calm smile, the city rolling by in the windows. After about 30 minutes, they pulled into a wide lot near an old hangar, much bigger than the one Marcus worked at. The gates were chained, the building dusty and forgotten. The air smelled like dry grass and old fuel. What's this place? Marcus asked, stepping out. Vanessa tossed him a set of keys. Your future. He blinked. What? She walked ahead and pushed open the big metal door. Inside, it was empty except for dust, sunlight, and potential. High ceilings, wide floor, enough space to fit 3 or 4 planes. I bought it, she said casually, hands in her pockets. Thought maybe it could be a good start for that business you keep talking about. Marcus stood there, frozen. He didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or just drop to his knees. You bought this for me? No, she said, smiling. I bought it with you in mind. You'll run it. Fix planes your way. Hire your own team. Do it right. I'll help get it off the ground, but it's yours. He didn't know what to say. No one had ever done anything like this for him. Why? He finally asked, voice low. Vanessa looked at him seriously. Because I believe in people who don't get the chances they deserve. And because you're brilliant, Marcus. I met a lot of smart people, but you've got something rare. He walked deeper into the hangar, eyes wide, heart racing. He could already see the sign, the workbenches, the planes lined up. He imagined his dad smiling somewhere, proud as ever. When he turned around, she was still standing there, calm, waiting. So, she said, tilting her head, you in? Marcus didn't even hesitate. I'm all in. And just like that, something shifted. It wasn't just about fixing planes anymore. It was about building something real, something that could fly. Marcus didn't waste time. The very next morning, he showed up at the new hangar with a notebook full of ideas and a backpack full of tools. The place still smelled like rust and old memories, but to him, it smelled like hope. He started cleaning right away, sweeping dust, checking outlets, looking over the roof for leaks. It was quiet work, but Marcus didn't mind. For once, he wasn't just fixing something broken. He was preparing something new. Later that week, Vanessa stopped by with coffee and a folder. Here's the paperwork. All legal. You're the owner. I'm just your silent investor now. Marcus stared at the folder. You serious? Dead serious, she said, grinning. This is your thing now. I'm just here when you need backup. Marcus had to sit down. It was all real now. He signed the papers with hands that shook just a little. Not from nerves, but from something deeper. Pride. Excitement. The weight of a dream finally starting to land. Over the next few days, he called in favors. Old friend from trade school, a retired mechanic who used to work with his dad, even a kid from the gas station who loved planes. They painted walls, fixed lights, installed racks, and rolled in toolboxes. Slowly, the place came alive. One afternoon, Marcus stepped back to admire it all. The sun lit up the hangar through the tall windows. The smell of fresh paint mixed with engine oil. He wiped his hands on his jeans and smiled. This was it. His. Later that night, Vanessa texted. How's the hangar looking? Like home, he replied. A minute later, she sent another message. You free tomorrow night? Yeah. What's up? Got a surprise. We're something decent. No oil stains. Marcus laughed out loud in his empty living room. The next evening, she picked him up again. Same sleek car, same soft music playing. But this time, she drove him to a rooftop downtown. Lights, flowers, and soft jazz music filled the air. A few tables were set under string lights. It wasn't crowded, just cozy. Marcus looked around. This a restaurant? Sort of, she said, smiling. I rented it. Just us tonight. Marcus blinked. You rented a whole rooftop for dinner? Why not? Figured we should celebrate. They ate under the stars, laughing between bites, talking about everything and nothing. For a moment, it didn't feel like mechanic and billionaire. It felt like two people who actually fit. After dessert, Vanessa leaned in, her voice quiet. You know, when I landed that day with a broken engine, I was ready to cancel everything. I was stressed, angry, tired of it all. Marcus listened closely, but then you showed up, calm, focused, kind, and it reminded me what real people look like, what real effort feels like. He didn't know what to say, but he didn't have to. She smiled at him gently and whispered, I think meeting you was the best thing that ever happened to me. Marcus looked at her, stunned, and in his heart, something clicked. Marcus stood in the hangar early one morning, looking around at everything he and his crew had built. New signs were up. The walls were painted clean white with blue trim. Tools hung neatly. The first plane, a small cargo jet, was rolled in just yesterday. The place wasn't perfect yet, but it was real. His. And it felt good. He checked his watch. Vanessa was supposed to swing by for a quick tour before flying out for a tech event in Europe. He wiped his hands on his jeans just as her car pulled in. She stepped out wearing sunglasses and a sharp gray coat, but underneath, the same easy smile. You ready to show off? She asked, walking up. Always, Marcus said, unlocking the main hangar doors. They walked inside together. He showed her the engine bay, the office he'd set up in the corner with secondhand furniture, the tiny break room with a microwave and a worn couch. She looked around wide-eyed. Marcus, this is incredible. It's a start, he said, a little shy. No, she replied, turning to him. It's more than a start. This is a whole new chapter. He didn't know how to respond to that. It was hard to believe how far he'd come in just a few months. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. My driver's waiting. I have to head to the airport. They walked out slowly side by side. At the car, she turned to him and reached into her coat pocket. Before I go, she said, pulling out a small silver keychain. It was shaped like a jet engine, polished and simple. Just a little something to remind you where it all started, she said. Marcus took it, smiling. Thank you. This means a lot. Vanessa opened the door, then paused. Listen, when I'm back in a few weeks, we should talk. Properly. About us. Marcus blinked. Us. Yeah, she said quietly. This thing we've been dancing around. I know we're different, but it's real. I feel it. And I think you do too. He nodded, heart thumping. I do. She leaned in and kissed his cheek. Hold that thought, all right. Then she climbed into the car and drove off, disappearing into traffic. Marcus stood there, keychain in hand, staring at the empty road. The wind blew softly, carrying the scent of oil and summer air. He looked down at the little engine charm. It sparkled in the sun. She was right. This was real. And maybe, just maybe, it wasn't just about jets or hangars anymore. Maybe something bigger was about to take flight. Three weeks later, Marcus stood at the edge of the runway, watching the sunset paint the sky in orange and gold. He hadn't seen Vanessa since she flew out. They'd messaged a few times, but her schedule had been crazy. Big meetings, press interviews, product launches. Still, she always ended her messages the same way. Can't wait to talk in person. He didn't know what she would say when she came back, but he knew how he felt. She'd changed his life, and not just by buying a building. She believed in him, saw something in him no one else had, and he couldn't stop thinking about her. Then, just as the sun dipped low, her jet appeared in the sky. Marcus watched it land smooth and quiet, like it was made just for her. The moment the door opened, his heart jumped. Vanessa stepped out in jeans and a white blouse. No fancy coat, no cameras. Just her. She walked toward him with a smile that said everything. "Miss me?" she asked softly. "Every day," he said. They stood there for a second, letting the wind move around them, both quiet. Then she reached in her bag and pulled out a small box. "So," she said, holding it out, "I've been thinking." Marcus blinked. "What's this?" She opened the box. Inside was a silver ring. Simple, clean, just like her. "This isn't about money or business," she said. "It's about finding someone who makes me feel like I can just be." He stared at her, heart racing. "Marcus, will you build a life with me? Not just a shop, a real future." He laughed, surprised and stunned. Are you proposing to me?" "Yeah," she said, smiling. "Because you fixed more than a jet that day. You fixed something in me, too." Marcus didn't need time to think. He took the ring, held her hands, and nodded. "Yes, 100% yes." They kissed under the open sky, the sound of planes in the distance. No crowds, no noise, just two people who found each other in the middle of a busy world. A few weeks later, the shop had its grand opening. A small banner read Kingsley and Keys Aviation, her name and his side by side. They stood at the front door together, greeting guests, smiling like two kids who never expected this life. Marcus looked over at Vanessa and whispered, "Never thought fixing a broken jet would lead to this." She leaned in and said, "Funny how life takes off when you least expect it." And with that, they stepped inside, hand in hand, ready to fly.